Good morning, gang. Happy Wednesday morning. All right, moving on along in the world here. Big question for you. How prepped are you? How much time do you have left to complete everything that you need to do to get your food situation, your water situation, your shelter, your security, your whatever situation? How much time do you have? Okay. Conventional wisdom, and I'm not trying to predict anything, I'm telling you what is being said out there, is you have less than 2 years, okay, to get everything in order that you need. What do I mean by this? We're a lot closer to war with China than most people realize, okay? Right now, you've got politicians, government officials, appointed and elected, okay, that are very, very concerned that the Chinese may impose a full-blown blockade of China or of Taiwan. Okay, I mean, encircle the island. Nothing comes in, nothing goes out. Okay. Now, obviously, this is going to be more than just Navy ships out there. This would also be fighter jets. So you're not going to go, well, gee, I'll just go over the top of them and land a plane in there. Okay, not that easy. All right. China just finished a 3-day exercise, let's use this, of basically an invasion of Taiwan, okay? Invading Taiwan from the east. And basically showed the world this is what we're capable of and this is what we're going to do, okay? Now, if China does a blockade of Taiwan, basically, guys, even without putting it on paper, even without a vote, even without a formal declaration, we're at war with China. Okay. I've heard stories anywhere from 60% to 90% of the semiconductors in the world are made in Taiwan. Okay. That would immediately be shut off. So anything that you have that's computerized, forget it. Okay. Your cell phone, your computer, your TV, your car, whatever, done. I'm going to get into cars in a minute, too. If China chooses to blockade Taiwan, we're instantly at war. What would be our first reaction? Oh, out of this administration, it would be sanctions, because those are so important. Okay. We would have to do something in response, which would mean a blockade of China, meaning somehow no oil gets in, no food gets in, whatever. That would pretty much be the rest of the world's response. I'm not saying we as in the United States, I'm saying everybody else, okay? Because if we wind up going to war against China, we will have allies. Primarily the Aussies would probably be in there, the Japanese, et cetera, et cetera. NATO, not so much, okay? NATO really doesn't have anything to do with Asia. NATO is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, not the North Pacific Treaty Organization. Okay? So they'd have to do something on their own. What's going on? This is where you think, okay, why would you say something like that? Why do you think that's going to happen? Quietly, at least to the American public, Wall Street knows it, the government knows it, but Joe Average really doesn't pay attention to it. Quietly, the Chinese are shrinking their exposure to U.S. debt. Okay, there's, and again, I've said before, how do foreign countries buy U.S. debt? They buy treasury bonds. China has been selling off their treasury bonds slowly but surely for about 8 months now. Every month, they're cutting their holdings in treasury bonds, having less and less and less exposure to the dollar, okay, which is one of the reasons why we're seeing the pressure in the bond market. I mean, we don't even want to get into the Fed raising rates and doing whatever, okay? But I'll give you this, just in January, China cut their exposure to U.S. Treasury bonds from $867 billion, which they had in the end of the year, to $859 billion. Okay. All right, doesn't, I mean, on big scale things, you're talking billions of dollars. All right, but you're talking $18 billion cut. Yeah, that's 2%. All right, do that for a while. It doesn't take too long. Now, what happens to us? Well, like I said, you have no semiconductors coming from Taiwan. That's going to drastically affect pretty much every business in the country because everything is computerized, right? Okay. I mean, hell, you can't walk into McDonald's without being computerized. God forbid you have a cashier that could actually go, "You want a Big Mac and fries and a Coke?" I mean, kids don't even know how to handwrite anything anymore, right? Okay. So forget it. It's computerized. But then the next thing you have happen is if we're at war with China, you can immediately expect 100% of all imports that we get from China done, gone. Okay. Go to Walmart, find something in there that's not made in China. Go on Amazon, try to find something there that's not made on China. When the biggest business in the country all of a sudden winds up Etsy, because most of that stuff is made by individuals like you and me, handmade here in the United States. Yeah, that might be a little eye opener to people. Right? That's how dependent we are on China. Our world stops when we go to war with China. When is this going to happen? Why do I say you have 2 years? Oh, I don't know, because you have the Pentagon coming out and saying that they expect that we will be fighting China by 2025. It's 2023, guys. Okay, that's less than 2 years away if it started on New Year's Day. Okay, the Chinese aren't screwing around with this. The Chinese are hell bent on reunification, getting Taiwan back, and they'll stop at nothing. Okay, as far as they're concerned, it's their property. They're pissed anytime somebody calls the country Taiwan. You know, just the fact that Kevin McCarthy was going to meet with the president of Taiwan sent the Chinese into a tizzy. Okay, you know, we need to pay very close attention. Whatever happens in Taiwan, not my issue. Okay, unless of course they start sending American troops. But we need to prepare for what happens when the umbilical cord is cut, when the chickens come home to roost, because all this, let's send our manufacturing to China, stupidest decision in politics ever. Okay, let's send all our business to a communist country. It's not like China woke up 2 weeks ago and decided they were communist. China's been communist for decades. All right. Ask any Chinese national who's come over from the United States to the United States. They're like, "Oh my God, you know, I'm so glad I'm out of that mess. Let me tell you the truth," which the media will never tell you. Okay. So you have 2 years to get everything taken care of, which means your house, your food, your water, your power, whatever you need to be. Also means other things. Means get any repairs done, any projects done that you need to do now. You need a new roof on your house? Get a new roof on your house. You need the plumbing fixed? Get the plumbing fixed. Why? Because the parts that you need inevitably come from China. Oh, but metal roofing comes from, the United States. The screws don't. Okay. Oh, shingles come from the United States. No, actually, those primarily come from Canada. Your car, half the parts in your car, I don't care if you get a Japanese-made car, an American-made car, a Mercedes, whatever it is, half the parts in your car are made in China. Okay, just telling you. We all remember the supply chain disaster of a couple of years ago, where I told you stories about my mechanic telling me about somebody with a Jeep, something or other, if I remember, was going to be in the shop for 6 months because they couldn't get one particular part because it came from China. And we had a supply chain problem with stuff not getting here from China. Imagine what we went through a couple of years ago, 100-fold. Not ships waiting to get unloaded. Ships not coming. That's what we're expecting. So, of course, then you get good old Potato Joe, who's going to add insult to injury on this one, and what he announced yesterday. The most restrictive emissions controlling on cars that have to take place by 2027, okay? That the White House's goal is that for 67% of vehicles will be electric by 2032. I'm not even going to get into the part, and that's 9 years away, guys. I'm not even going to get into the fact that we don't have the infrastructure, all the points that we make why it won't work. That they don't work in the cold, that there's no way to charge them, yada yada yada. It takes forever to charge them, all that sort of stuff. You guys know all that, okay? But this is what they're trying to do. Let's make all the cars electric. I want to ask you something. Where do all the components to make lithium-ion batteries come from, or lithium iron phosphate batteries come from? China! We might have a little problem with your plan, Joe. I understand you want this because this is, if I could make all the vehicles electric, think of the 10% cut I get, okay? This is what it is. You want to talk about things you need to repair? You want to talk about true reparations? Guys, get your vehicles in tip-top shape. If that means, you need a new mirror, you need a new set of tires, whatever would be, you have about 2 years to make sure everything is running as pristine as possible. Turn your old vehicle into a new vehicle. Because think of this, if they want everything to be electric vehicles and we have problems with China, who's going to be making spare parts to fix your 2014 Dodge Ram? Nobody. Okay? You need to get it fixed now, because what they're going to do is make your car obsolete because you can't fix it. That's what I'm saying. You have about 2 years till everything goes hell-bent for leather if the Pentagon is correct and we're at war by 2025. We're a lot closer than we think. We're a lot closer than the media will tell you. We're certainly a lot closer than the airheads in the Democrat Party think. They think, oh, gee, everything's going to be great. The Chinese love us. No, none of that is true. Use that as a time frame. I'm not saying it's a guarantee. I'm not saying put it on your calendar. But when I see something like, all right, this is when our military is telling us we're going to go to war, regardless of how woke the generals are, that's something I'm going to pay attention to, and it gives me a timeline. It's like, okay, this is when I got to have everything done. If it happens, I'm ready. If it doesn't happen, I'm still ready if it happens 6 months later. Okay? Just saying, get yourself on a 2-year plan to get everything done. If you can get yourself on a 2-year plan to pay off some bills, I know some people are going to go, there's no way I'm paying off my house in 2 years. Fast as you can. If you can do it that fast, go for it. But at least get stuff paid off like a car or credit cards or whatever, so you can lighten the burden for later when the only payment you have left is that mortgage payment, and you're not going, oh my God, it's either groceries or the mortgage payment. Lighten your burden somewhere, because when all this happens, that's when you will see an economic collapse. And an economic collapse, no China, no computers, probably means no job. Just saying. Pinball out.